Hi friends, today I am finally here to talk to you about 47 decks in 47 days. So what is that? Actually, disclaimer, it's 48 decks in 50 days, but we'll get to that. So I wanted to go through all of my tarot decks. I wanted to use one deck every day for the full set of days to match for each tarot deck. So at the time it was 47 decks. I did originally tell myself 47 days, but I also know myself and I know that things happen, things come up. There's going to be times where I'm not going to do it. So there were 2 days, hence 50 days. But the premise was for me to use all of my decks before the year ended, which kind of leads me to why I wanted to do this. Part of that was because I did feel like I wanted to use all of my decks before 2025 ended. And I had noticed that there were several decks that I hadn't used yet for the year, which is fine. I don't normally have that rule for myself, but I just wanted to do it. And I thought that this would be a fun little experiment, using them all back to back to see if there was any decks that stood out to me, if there was any that could be added to Purgatory, if there were any surprises, like decks that I normally wouldn't vibe with that ended up having a really good reading, subtle foreshadowing. So yeah, I just wanted to put together this little project for myself and do 47 decks in 47 days. So we will go through every single deck. You will see that, but I just wanted to go over the whys, the whens, the hows, whatever. No Lenormand decks, no Purgatory decks. So I do have, I think, 3 decks in Purgatory right now. They were not used at all because they're already in Purgatory and I'm already pretty convinced I'm going to be getting rid of them. I also did not use any decks that I like are a tarot but I use as an oracle. So a good example of that would be the Outgrow Yourself tarot and oracle. I don't use it as a tarot. I find it works better for me as an oracle. So I didn't use decks like that I have in my space for this little self-proclaimed challenge. But I did get a deck in during this time. So we went to 48 decks. And like I said, I did miss 2 days. So the one day I missed, I just completely forgot. It slipped my mind. And I was actually like laying in bed, like kind of in that weird space where you're not quite asleep, not quite awake. And I was like, I forgot to do my tarot reading. And I did contemplate getting out of bed to do it. But I was like, you know what? It's okay. Give yourself a little grace. You knew this was going to happen, so give yourself some grace. And then the second time it happened, I was not in the mood. I was like, I am not doing it today. So that's how we ended up with 48 decks in 50 days, but we're going to keep the title 47 decks in 47 days because that's how I've been referring to it in previous videos. So what happened? How did I do this? I wanted to try and keep it as consistent as possible. I did toy with the idea of using spreads from a lot of the guidebooks because I love guidebooks that come with spreads, but I never use them. So that was kind of an option, but I opted against it because I wanted it to be consistent. So I did a 3-card spread every day. I wanted this to be consistent, but again, I know myself and I knew that this was not going to be an option. So if I remembered or had time to read in the morning, I would ask for a 3-card pull to give me a message about my day. If I read at night, I would ask for a 3-card pull for a reflection of my day. I do wish I was the kind of person that would have been able to be consistent with that, like in the morning only or at night only, but I'm not. I'm just not that person. So that's where we landed with that. And I wanted to keep it just to those 2 messages. I didn't want to read about any specific scenarios that happened that day or, like I said, any specific spreads, just a general 3-card, give me a message kind of reading. So that's what we did with the readings. As far as journaling the readings goes, I journaled every single reading in my journal diary, my tarot diary. So every single one is in here. I marked it with like day 1, day 2, day 3, the deck that I used, and whether it was an AM card pull or a PM card pull. So this was kind of like the diary about the reading. And then I used a separate journal to document the decks that I used and how I felt about that reading, whether it was accurate, whether it was not accurate, whether it was mind-blowing, whatever the case may be. So we've got a couple pages. I wanted to keep it to one line each for each deck. I didn't want this to be too in-depth because the tarot journal is the in-depth reading, the in-depth documenting. So then what I noticed, after I was probably like 2/3 of the way through this little project of mine, I noticed that there were words consistently popping up. So accurate was one of them. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go through, and every time I see the word accurate, I'm going to highlight it in yellow. And then anytime I see didn't work for me, or I hate admitting this, but a word I often used was meh, I would highlight that in orange. And then I also started to notice that there were some that didn't really pertain to the day itself, but they were good advice nonetheless. So good advice got highlighted in purple. That's how we ended up with all of these 3 colors. So those are the 3 categories that I'm going to put the decks into when we talk about them. So that's kind of a brief explanation as to how I landed there and how I ended up with those specific 3 categories: accurate, meh, and good advice. So that was the journaling process of this little project. So now that we have a little background and a little history as to why I did this, let's flip the camera around. I've already filmed this part so you can see all the decks that I used and what categories they fell into and how I felt about them. I did try and keep this part brief. I didn't really want to do full flip throughs of each of these decks, but it's a little bit longer than my usual content, but here we go. We're going to start with the accurate category. This is the biggest category of all of them, which, like, yay, good news. And I'm going to talk about the decks that I used, obviously, and I'll probably dive slightly into the readings I got with them, but I don't want it to take too long. So, and I'm going to go in order that I used them per category. So the first deck I used for 47 decks in 47 days was the Tarot del Fuego. This is a favorite of mine. It's just so fiery and a little on the bizarre side. You can see why it's in the summer energy category. We started with our summer energy decks. So this one, I got a lot of swords, and looking back at my journal for my notes for this one, it was a very heady day. Like, I was in my head quite a bit this day. So that is what gave this one the accurate category. This deck, I love the cardstock. I'm actually noticing it's a little bit, seems maybe a little warped, but I love the cardstock. I love the size. I love the shush. Love that. It's these Fournier decks. It's the only Fournier deck I have, and I just, I wish I liked more Fournier. It's not that I dislike them, it's just I don't like them enough to buy them. When a collection is so huge, you gotta make executive decisions, and good on me for making an executive decision to not buy more decks. But I love these little Fournier decks. The Tarot del Fuego popped off my 47 decks in 47 days, and it got an accurate highlighter. The next one was Lightseers. Again, summer category, summer vibes. This got the accurate highlighter as well. I have edged mine in like a greeny teal. I wanted it to be more teal than it came out, but I don't hate it. So when looking at my journal for this day, we got some wands and the death card. So I interpreted that as needing a new creative endeavor or ending a creative endeavor. It was an insightful message for the day, and I felt like it was also inspiring, which that's how, it's so weird when I have a random reversed card because I don't do reversals. That's usually when I will do a reversal, is when it's just randomly placed in there. The death card you don't think of as inspiring. Insightful, yes, but inspiring not always. So this one gave me the insightful and inspiring, and the highlighted word instead of accurate was not wrong. So Lightseers, I mean, we all know it. A lot of people own this deck. Doesn't get used too often. I kind of feel, I feel some resistance to it, but I do like it when I use it. So I don't know. I always say it's like my Coachella energy deck. It gives me summer festival energy. So Lightseer's got the Accurate Highlighter. Lightseer, sorry, this might hurt tarot. I kind of compare this to Lightseer's. They give off a similar feeling for me. It's another one I don't use very often. I think it was in my video last year for decks I didn't use in 2024. I have this, the iridescent edging. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, I love these backs. One of my favorite backs, probably. This day, we got Devil yet again. It was a morning pull, and we got Devil and Temperance and 10 of Wands, I believe. And I had to go back and reflect at the end of the day, and it was very accurate for that day. Now, this day I didn't journal why it was accurate, which is unusual. All the other entries I did journal why I said it was accurate, but this one I did not. I did, however, journal that it was a bad day. So I think that might be why I didn't journal about it. Oddly enough, I don't remember. So it was accurate though. And we had that Devil card for a not good day. So this goes to show how the Devil card can go either way. But this is, I remember I was really excited to buy this deck, and the cardstock is very thick. That's one thing that drives me nuts about it. It's a little, I feel like adolescent. It gives me an adolescent energy with the drawings. Like, they're obviously adults, but just the big eyes, like, it's, I don't know, there's something adolescent about it, which I think is why I don't reach for it as much. I think this is the creator's self-portrait. I'm pretty sure that's her self-portrait card, their self-portrait card. But it's a good one, not going anywhere for now anyway. I can, you know, maybe years down the road see myself rehoming this one perhaps, but it's not in the cards, as they say right now. It's not something I'm considering right now. Now, we've skipped a few days because we did have some decks that landed in other categories. And the next one on the accurate list is the Ancient Greek Tarot, new to me for this year, as it would be for anyone who received this deck, because it just came out this year. This is going down as one of my top decks of 2025. I'm going to call it right now. We have Medusa on our backs. There is some illustrated nudity in here, so this is your warning for that. This one, like I said, it's a favorite, and I'm so glad it landed in the accurate category. This, I have noted that it provided a solution to a mental slump. So we love that. So we have people from ancient Greeks, myths from ancient Greeks, stories from ancient Greek. So I'm really glad I decided to back this on Kickstarter. It's, like I said, it's become one of my favorites. It's never going anywhere. We did get a calendar with the Kickstarter, and I'm so sad for when the year is over and I don't have that calendar anymore. I mean, I will have it, but it won't be very useful. I think I'll just flip it so that only the illustration is showing and the month is not, and keep it on my wall. And then I can switch it out whenever I feel the need to get a new photo. But this is a great deck. You had to pay extra for the accompanying guidebook, which is just a PDF. But I do think I'm really glad that I opted to do that, because it really helped me understand what some of the images were. This one is pretty obvious. We have King Midas. Some of them are obvious, but others I wouldn't be too certain about. And then there's some that are just like a basic. She just used, like in the guidebook it says, inspired by tarot illustrations. So, great deck. One of my favorites for 2025. And really glad she ended up in the accurate category. You can probably see we have one card. I don't know if it's picking it up. Oh, there we go. One card that's slightly larger than the rest because there was a misprint on that card and she had to mail out the replacements, and it's slightly bigger. So it's a little unfortunate, but doesn't bother me enough to really care. So again, Ancient Greek Tarot by, I don't know how to say her name, their name. I think you can still get this from their website. Love the box. Then we have the Lillifer Tarot. I got it from Kickstarter, the Kickstarter Gold Edition. I used this deck so much in 2024. We have extra cards and they are at the beginning. Love these backs. Again, a favorite back for sure. I'm really glad this ended up in the, well, I want all my decks to end up in the accurate category. So obviously I'm really glad when any of them end up in the accurate. This one, when I look at my journal, originally the message did not resonate. And then upon reflection, it was actually very profound. So during this whole little experiment that I did, I was in the midst of getting a new job and it wasn't well received by my previous position. The whole unit, the managers, it wasn't great for them that I was leaving. And a lot of my readings reflected my headspace during this time. So this particular reading, I found it really resonated with the response I was getting. And it just reminded me that this is a good thing. People should be congratulating you, not reacting the way that they are reacting to this situation. And you should be proud. You should celebrate your achievements. And I love that for this deck, for that reading. But Lillifer Tarot, another great one. I love the size of it. It's a little bit shorter. I think maybe, I was going to say a little bit wider, but I don't think it is. Feels great. Love it. Loved it last year. It came out on top last year, so glad to see it here in the accurate category. The Modern Love Tarot, kind of surprised that this ended up in the accurate category. I feel like it's very niche. It's a very niche tarot deck with the best guidebook. I mean, if you're doing relationship readings, it is fantastic. It does have a general meaning and a single and loving it meaning in the guidebook. So I do use it. I mean, I'm single and I stay that way. I like that way. So I don't really use it for myself for relationship readings. My friends don't really come to me for relationship readings, as I don't think they should, because I don't need to know their intimate details of their relationship. That puts me in an awkward spot. So I don't use it for relationship readings. But I do really like it. It's one of the first indie decks I ever purchased. And I was really excited to receive it in the mail. I love that the creator's Canadian, love supporting Canadians. So really excited to get this bad boy in my hands years ago. And I do love it. I think it's pastels. And every time I work with this deck, it reminds me of working with pastels in high school. I can almost feel the texture of the pastels. And you know what, I might be making myself look real silly here because maybe it's not pastels, but it reminds me of working with pastels. That is very real. So I just get this kind of nostalgic feeling when working with this deck. I'm pretty sure I enjoyed working with pastels in high school. I think I liked it. The reading notes for this deck. Obviously we have accurate. It again is relating to the job and where my headspace was at for just being told that I got a new job. Scary, exciting, all of it was reflected in the reading. So we have the Modern Love Tarot by Ethany. I think you can get this on Amazon now. It was not available on Amazon when I bought it, but I think it is now. Love these backs, they're adorable. Again, doesn't get used for love readings for myself, but I still bust it out for normal, regular, everyday readings, and it still works. Love that. Desert Illuminations, also new for 2025. I have the indie or the mass market version. Haven't worked with this one too much. It's very similar edging to what I did on Lightseers. This deck came with kind of like a waxy kind of substance that you could feel on your fingers, which I thought was weird for a mass market deck. And it does have a strong smell. I don't know, I guess like kind of papery. I did read in the Amazon reviews that people said they just kind of went over each card with a microfiber cloth. I did not have the patience for that. I still feel it a little tiny bit. Yeah, it probably depends on what cards have kind of come out the most. But it doesn't really bother me. Don't really care. This was, again, a reflection of my job. A lot of these readings were a reflection of what was going on because it was mentally consuming. I was terrified. You know, the reaction that I was getting wasn't ideal either. So I was dealing with those thoughts swirling around in my head and reminding myself, constantly trying to remind myself that this was good news. You did good, kid. Celebrate. Even though all this other stuff is going on, you're good. Love this deck. Ever since I saw it indie, I wanted this deck. I have a very special relationship with Arizona, so I loved this deck. It was out of print for the longest time, so naturally, when she came out mass market, I had to jump on it. And I can't wait. I think I did use this with my sister in Arizona over FaceTime with her one time for a reading. I don't remember the results of that though. That's unfortunate. But love it. I love that she is in the accurate category. Cracked Amethyst, also new for 2025. This was, it wasn't this deck that I wanted. It was the Amethyst Oracle. So when this came back on Kickstarter, I had to get my hands on it to get that little mini Amethyst Oracle. Don't mind it. This is definitely a deck that I would have got when I first started my tarot journey. The artwork is very much a reflection of the artwork that I was drawn to when I first started tarot. I am a sucker for gradient, as also seen in This Might Hurt. Still am a sucker for gradient. It's just the art style, the illustration style isn't really my jam now. That obviously I did buy this deck this year, so it's still my jam enough to purchase it, but it was more for the Amethyst Oracle. This is a cute deck. Love that it ended up in the accurate category, especially being a new deck for 2025. I think I'll have to, when we get to the not so accurate category, I'll have to see if there's any new decks for 2025, but it just validates your purchase when they end up being an accurate reading. So the notes I have, can't remember if I already said this, don't think I did. The notes I have for this deck for this day was that it ended up being accurate for a specific event that happened that day, which I would say is predictive. So, mental note to myself, if I'm looking for a predictive reading, this might be one of the go-tos for that. And that's one of the things I loved about doing this little experiment for myself, is categorizing decks in that way. Like, which deck was good for emotional support? Which deck was good for predictive readings? So here we have one that I would say is good for predictive readings. It'll be interesting to see if there's other decks in this list that I made note were slightly predictive or incredibly predictive. So it'll be interesting to see if when I go to use these decks in the future, if they still follow that same energy. Rose Petal Finish we have on this deck. Not as bad though as other decks. I feel like it's still slides pretty decent. I'm not really having a hard time picking up one card at a time. Oh, I just lied. Most of the time I don't have a hard time picking up one card at a time, so I don't mind it. Rose Petal's not a favorite, but in this deck it's not as, I don't want to say thick, but that's kind of what I feel like Rose Petal makes it. It makes it feel thick and heavy almost, and this one's not as bad. So again, glad the Cracked Amethyst ended up in the accurate category for being a new addition to 2025. And it didn't come in until just before I did this experiment. So I haven't really worked with it at all. Like, I think I've done a handful of readings with it prior to this experiment. So really glad that I got good energies and good readings out of that one. Thoth. This one's going to come with a little disclaimer. This is the only true Thoth I have. I have other decks that are Thoth inspired, Thoth adjacent, but I wanted to have the full-blown Aleister Crowley Thoth deck. I got the big one because I wanted to be able to fully see and appreciate the artwork because I was using it as a learning deck, still am. The disclaimer though that comes with this deck is that when I pulled my cards for the day, let's get to an example that's, oh my gosh, not a major. So the Two of Wands here, it says Dominion. I used the RWS interpretations. I just didn't on this day, probably a lot of these days, I didn't have time to unpack the Thoth meaning. I didn't have time to go into the Thoth titles. So I read it as an RWS, which may be blasphemous, I'm not sure. But with the RWS titles and interpretations, this was an accurate reading. My reading notes for this day were due to a social situation that did not have to do with the job. So we finally get a break. I felt like my readings were all consumed by my career situation. And so here we have one that pertained to a social gathering that was happening on this day that I wasn't looking forward to, not because I wasn't looking forward to the social situation itself. Wow, that's hard to say. But because I just, sometimes I get overstimulated in small spaces with a lot of people, and that's what this social gathering was. So I was feeling a little anxious about it, and this reading was, I feel like there was a card that represented the individual that the social gathering was centered around and how I should handle it. So I don't think I've ever pulled the Queen of Discs in the Thoth. So yeah, I was really pleased with the reading on this one. Again, using the RWS titles. Not sure how we feel about that, but that's just what I was going with that day because I was heading out the door to my social event that was out of town. So that's how we did. It would be interesting actually to go back and kind of try and interpret it with the Thoth titles and see if it still is accurate. I didn't make enough notes about this particular day to like maybe it would relate to something else that happened that day, and now I wouldn't remember that. So, but that would be interesting. So, little disclaimer, RWS titles worked with my Thoth deck. Don't use it too often. It's not a go-to, it's not a favorite. I still am working on the Thoth. We'll see how it goes. Sexual Magic Tarot Mini. I don't know why I bought this, you guys. This is one that I did consider rehoming. I bought it for a purpose, and now I can't remember what that purpose was. So do we need to keep it if we can't remember what the purpose was? Extra cards. Yes. It is in the, okay, obviously nudity warning. It is in the accurate category, so it was accurate. And it did pertain to take a shot, stab in the dark, my job. So, but it was a good reading. And it was interesting that this still worked. I was going to say for a career reading, but it wasn't a career reading. It was just a general reading, and I interpreted it as a reflection of a career situation that happened that day. I had a meeting this day that didn't go so well. But yeah, interesting that I mean, I don't have anything romantic going on in my life right now, so it's probably like, what do you want me to do here, lady? Like, what do you want me to give you? I mean, we still have self-love and pleasure in all its forms, so you could have given me that, but no. And again, it's all in the eyes of the interpreter. I was obviously in a very heady space with my career situation. So I think naturally my first reaction is to apply these tarot readings to my career situation. So who knows? Who knows if maybe some of these decks had different intentions for their readings and I was like, totally career. You're totally talking about my career situation. Who knows? But that's kind of what I love about reading for myself. Like, I don't think we're supposed to read for ourselves. I remember getting into tarot and hearing that you shouldn't read for yourself because you do know what's going on. But that's why I read tarot, is to read for myself. So I rarely read for other people. Now we have my Badass Tarot. This is my February deck. I almost always use this every February because February is my birthday. I am an Aquarius, and this deck feels very Aquarius. We have some extra cards here. I think there's nudity in here, perhaps, or at the very least inappropriate cards. So there's your warning there. This is such a fun deck. The second I saw this, I knew I had to have it. It is so fun. And it ended up in the accurate category. I think the Queen of Cups was in my reading. Hold on. Yep, she was. And this, I made notes that this really spoke to how I was feeling like I had a lot on my plate that day. I was feeling a lot of pressure at work. And this reading really spoke to that. Let me see what the rest of my cards were. Yeah, we have the Nine of Swords, Ten of Wands, and Queen of Cups. So yeah, lots on my plate, lots of anxiety, but we have our Queen of Cups reminding us to remain balanced in all realms. And I do kind of think the Queen of Cups here was a nod to, let's not get overly emotional about this. Let's remain balanced. I am an emotional person. I think the Page of Cups is more my significator, but I do resonate with the Queen of Cups as well. So I felt it was showing what I was feeling and what I was going through that particular day, but reminding me, you are the Queen of Cups. You got this. Fun deck. Again, my February deck. This is a fun one to work with friends as well. I think I've done it with my sister and my sister's friend, but I don't think I've done it with my group of friends. It's so good. So off the wall. There is another version of this deck that's like the exact same, has the exact same backs, the exact same edging. The cards are obviously different. I did consider getting that one and swapping out some of the cards that I like better in the other decks. Not that I dislike them in this one, I just like them better. Some of the court cards especially. But it's an indie deck. Who is it by? I'm doing a terrible job of saying who they're by. By Harley Spencer. I got mine on eBay from her directly. It's her account on eBay. So I was nervous initially about purchasing it on eBay. And I messaged the creator and she was, the person on eBay, and she was like, I am the creator. I was like, amazing. Add to cart. So it's just a little pricey being an indie deck. And I was like, I don't need to buy another one to swap out like 5 cards. Like, I don't need to do that. We don't need to be doing that here. So yeah, Badass Tarot by Harley Spencer. Love it. It's so quirky and so fun. And I feel like it does reflect my energy, especially when I use it in Aquarius season. Glad to have her here on this list. Cat Tarot. Still in the accurate list here. This deck, I feel like it doesn't get enough credit. It's so good. It is so well done. So the premise here is that cats have been put into popular pop culture, art, all kinds of stuff. Actors, actresses. Here we have our backs. Love. We're kind of getting into the fall category now. I categorize this as a fall deck strictly just because of the color palette. The aesthetics that it gives. I edged it in a Sharpie. I don't know if we can see that kind of like metallic look that Sharpies have that I hate edging tarot decks with, but it does get the best saturation, I find. So sometimes I just go to Sharpies for edging decks. This is hilarious. I love it when tarot decks have a sense of humor. And this particular day was my trail running wipeout. And the cards that I pulled were, what were the order? The Two of Swords, the Ten of Pentacles, and the Eight of Cups. So I almost laughed out loud when I think I might have actually laughed out loud when I pulled these cards, because I felt like the Two of Swords, it's, you know, a choice and perhaps choosing a, could we say, difficult path? So obviously trail running is a little more difficult than road running. I chose to trail run on this particular day. I chose wrong. Totally disagree. Fantastic story, falling trail running. I love talking about it, love telling the story, told it in one of my wrap-ups. So I felt like that was just kind of being funny about the difficult path. And The Ten of Pentacles, I thought related to how I recovered from said wipeout. Like I went right down. I went down hard and I recovered very well. I recovered in the best possible way when you fall in these kinds of situations. So I felt like peak Ten of Pentacles there. And then the Eight of Cups was, I felt quite literally me walking away from that situation. I was able to walk away from that wipeout. So I felt like it was, if you're looking at the cards, literally their interpretation, not necessarily the art in this case, but literal interpretation of what the Eight of Cups is. Walking away, Alien, so good. I'm on an Alien movie binge right now. Frodo, literally walking away from a situation. It's usually an emotional situation, but you know, it could have been emotional. I could have been very upset about my fall, but I wasn't, and I walked away from it mostly unscathed. So this was just a really funny one. It's a funny deck. I enjoy using it. I enjoy the illustrations and how they've done it. 007, really good. Singing in the Rain, yeah, Low Scarabeo. Like I said, I don't think this deck gets enough love and enough credit. I am not a cat person. I don't even like I can never say this word, anthropomorphic. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of decks that have that put people bodies on animal heads. Not a fan, but it works for me in this deck, and I think it's hilarious. And thus begins our fall section of the accurate category. Next up, Trionfi della Luna in our accurate list. Illustrated Pips edition with a host of extra cards. I think I like the mass market blue better than the maroon. Undecided. This was a reflection of my workday. And this particular day, the announcement was made. The email went out that I was leaving, and the Ten of Swords came up in my reading. So something is ending, and it was very sad for me to leave my job. I love my coworkers. I love the comfort my job provides in the sense that I know what I'm doing. I come in the office every day and I know what I'm doing because I've been doing it for so long, and I'm leaving that. But when something ends, it opens up a new beginning. So I liked that for this reading. These guys, I don't love Patrick Valenza's artwork. And here I ended up with the illustrated pips. I bought it because it had the illustrated pips. I'm not a fan of pip decks in general. I do have some, but not a fan. And this one, I don't know, I felt like it was time. And I have grown to love these little caricatures on here. I think they're adorable now, which I never thought I would say that. But I love them. They're weird little creatures, and I love them. I don't know that I would ever use this deck with friends though, because I think it is a little bit jarring, especially if you're not familiar with Patrick Valenza's artwork. It could be a little bit jarring to see some of these critters and some of the images depicted. Probably one of my favorite all-time cards for the moon. Love it. But yeah, it does look a little sinister. It's a little sinister. So I don't know that I would ever use this for other people unless I thought they were down for that kind of artwork. So, perfect. Doesn't get used overly often, and it is mostly in the fall, but here we have the Trionfi della Luna. John Bauer. This is my Christmas deck. I don't really have a tarot deck for the Yule season, for Christmas time. So this has kind of taken that place, and I hate these backs. They're probably my most disliked backs out of all my decks, all of them. I don't love the color scheme. I don't know why they did that, but anyway, besides the point. This is the only deck I have that really gives me Christmas energy, and it could be like the storytelling vibe that comes with the artwork that we're assigned to each card. It's a little dark, like quite literally the artwork is a little bit dark as we sit on a brighter card. I don't know. I feel like it does give me a nostalgic feeling, and Christmas is very nostalgic for me. So the storytelling, the images, I don't know. It's just where my head goes. I don't think it's too much of a stretch to call this a Christmas time deck, but maybe you do. I don't know. So just kind of working through my thought process out loud there with this one. This deck was one of the decks that I thought might get added to the purgatory list as a result of this experiment. It was probably the only deck I thought, yeah, I need to use this because I need to see if it's going to work out for me, if I'm going to keep it. It would be unfortunate to put it in purgatory because, like I said, it is one of my only Christmas energy decks. Here we have a very Christmassy card in my opinion. So I don't love the thought of getting rid of it, but we have it in the accurate category here, so we're not getting rid of it. It was yet another reflection of my mental state for my job, and it landed. So it's not going into purgatory. You know, maybe down the line, if I get another deck that does give me Christmas energy, I will work with it instead, and this will land in purgatory. Not sure. I don't know, but right now it's staying. I want to find, there's one card, it's the Fool card, and it doesn't match the rest of the deck, in my opinion. It just doesn't match. I don't know. Like, the art style doesn't even match. I don't know. So that's the one thing that kind of irks me about this deck, is that Fool card. But anyway, it's staying for now. She'll stay for now. And I like that it gave me a good reading, although it did make my hopes of being able to add something to purgatory completely fizzle out. But anyway, on to the next. Intuitive Night Goddess. I usually use this deck for my new moon readings. I haven't been lately though. I've been slacking on my new moon readings. I edged it in Sharpie. Great backs. Super plain, super simple. Could be snow, could be stars. Also a winter deck because of that. Oh, we have some warping. This particular reading, I feel like it spoke to my job, but also a social event that happened in the evening. I went to the guidebook for this one. Didn't do that for all of my readings. I find I like to go to the guidebook for this one. Not sure why, but it is one of the ones I like to peruse the guidebook for. And I really liked the guidebook messages for that day. So I like it when that happens too, when you are able to go to the guidebook and you like what the guidebook says and it resonates for the reading that you have in front of you. So this one is not going anywhere. I thoroughly enjoy. I like the renaming of a lot of the cards. Not usually a fan of renaming at all because it trips me up, but I do like the ones in this one. The Wayfarer. I like that. See, it's just good. I don't think I've used this one much this year. Like I said, I've been slacking on my new moon readings. So we have the Intuitive Night Goddess, and my cards are warping. That is, I don't know if you'll be able to see because I have a black table, but how did I not notice that when I used it? Oh, I'll have to use it more, try and work that out. Next up, we have a yes deck. So there were a few decks that I was like, yes, I'm so excited to use this. This is one of them, the Ritual Tarot, Tarot May. I have the second edition with the not, with the not named. There's no card names on the backs. Extra card. I edged this. I tried to get out of the Sharpie edging and I edged it in a Tombow and it gets all over my hands. Hence storing wet wipes with it. So as I stated, this was a yes deck. I hadn't worked with it in a little while and I was so looking forward to working with it. And I can't say that I've ever really had a reading with the Ritual Tarot that hasn't been accurate. So not at all surprised that it's landed in the accurate category. This particular day that this reading took place on was my last day at my job. And the reading I felt was a reflection of that. This one, I try not, like, I will never do more than 3 cards with this deck. It's a personal rule. It's the size, but also I feel like it's a little overstimulating to get more than 3 cards with the Ritual Tarot. Sometimes I enjoy 1 tarot card and 1 oracle, or 2 oracles and 1 tarot, which is not something I normally do, but I do feel like it works for, I feel like any kind of heavy collage deck, it works for that, for me personally. So, but we did a 3 card, we were keeping it consistent, so we did a 3 card morning pull, and I actually noted that I immediately knew that this would be the energy of the day after receiving those cards. So she's here in the accurate category, and it is no surprise to me. And she was one of my yes decks. I get to work with you today. Love that for us. I love these backs too. These are a favorite back. So we've all seen her a million times. Lord of the Rings Tarot by SA, I don't know if it's Fix or Fikes. I believe this is out of print. I got this on Etsy, and I had it shipped to my sister's house in Arizona because it was so much money. It was over $50 to have it shipped to Canada. So I had it shipped to my sister's and picked it up when I went there eventually. Love the backs. This is kind of a fall category. How did we end up back in fall after just going through some winter ones? Don't know how that happened. I edged mine in a Tombow. I don't mind it. It's not great, but I didn't like the white edging, so I just wanted to kind of tone down the white edging. This is an all-time favorite deck. We have linen cardstock. I know that there's a couple Lord of the Rings decks out there. This, I think, obviously that's my opinion, is the best one. And I wanted it for so long before I pulled the trigger and bought it. It was the shipping that was holding me back from ordering it. And then when I planned a trip to my sister's in the States, I was like, now's the time. Now's the time for me to order it. And I'm so glad I did, because it does appear to be out of print. So this Lord of the Rings tarot deck is a combination of the movies and the books. So I have not read the books, I know, for shame. Some of the images portrayed, I don't know who the character is, and I'm not 100% sure what's happening, but I have this handy dandy little guidebook where it tells you, so that's fine. And I do plan on reading the books. I think I started them. I am no man. I want that tattooed on me. Love it. So this reading pertained to being a bedbug all day. I was a bedbug, and my reading reflected that. And that's fine. Sometimes you have bedbug days. The cards are, I don't know if we've noticed, but they all have a slight color difference for the suits and the majors. And I love that it's subtle. It's not in your face. It's almost not noticeable until you notice it. But really sorry if you wanted to get your hands on this. Fikes art on Etsy is, just keep your eye on it, because it has sold out many times and come back in stock. I have noticed though it's been sold out and it's actually removed from her Etsy page now. So sincerest apologies if it's not available, but I would say keep your eye on it. Just keep checking once a month, put it in a calendar, put it on your phone if it's something that you want to get your hands on. Oops. Okay. I always want to say Marseille. My brain, it's the immediate response. Marseille. If I say Marseille, I mean Marseille. This is the first time I have ever used this deck. This is my only Marseille deck. Not a huge fan of Marseille decks. I have a hard time reading them. I mean, I don't love pips, as I said, but I do think, similar to the Thoth, it's something that I should have on my shelf, in my collection,
to learn with if I choose to do that. And it has a, you know, it's part of tarot history. So I think it's, I don't know, I think it's handy to have, and it's good to have. We have a more cartoony style, which is more my style than the OG. And it's in the accurate category. I can see this being a winter deck with the white background. So, what happened this day? I don't remember. Oh, it wasn't like, this wasn't like a profound, like, oh my God, so accurate reading. This was just more of a, yeah, it's not wrong. So, I mean, it wasn't crazy, but it wasn't wrong either, which did happen for a few decks. There's another one coming up shortly where that happened. Yeah, whatever. I did a lot of crafting on this particular day and got some wands. So yeah, there's that. First time ever using this deck, and I have not used it since. I don't have plans to use this deck, but it is staying because, like I said, I do think it's something I should have on the shelf for research purposes, for learning. Who makes this? Debray. This was a secondhand gift. Thank you if you're watching. Next, Marigold. Another Canadian artist. She's actually in my province, not too far from me. There is a PDF guidebook for this, which I don't really reference. I should. It came edged black, stunning Marigold linen cardstock. And it was accurate. I love this deck. I could have these on my wall. I could have handbags with these images on it. I can have framed photos, framed artwork with these images on it. I could have journals with these images. I think she does sell journals, actually. I have the tarot cloth with this imagery on it. Love that she included her ethnicity in here. Oh, it's so good. It's a favorite. It's not gold foiled, but it is somehow still a little gold, little metallic-y. It is pippy, but the pips are beautiful. They are stunning pips. What was my reading? Oh, I was off this day for a stat holiday, and accidentally, not on purpose. Well, it was intentional. It's not that I accidentally threw stuff out, but I ended up purging a lot of items, and the reading does reflect that. And I think it also, the reading, it's not, I wouldn't call it a predictive reading, because it didn't necessarily reflect the act of the purging, but it was more kind of like the mental state of like how you got to have so many things and the release of so many things. So love that. So good. Oh, every single one is stunning. Again, I don't like calling this a Halloween deck because it's just so much more deep than that, and it's so much more beautiful, and like the skeletons aren't in a Halloween manner. Like, I don't know, they're not scary skeletons, they're not Halloween skeletons, they're beautiful and very well done. Oh my God, very well done. I don't know if we passed it, but the Lovers is a favorite. And we have the Devil. We'd love to see what the Devil looks like. Sun. Moon. Yeah, so you probably saw it. I just wasn't paying attention. I'm going to look it up just because I want to see it. Like, they're skeletons, and somehow you can still tell they're looking at each other lovingly. Amazing. Amazing that you can portray that in art. So this is by Amrit Brar, and it is, you find it on, it's indie, it's from 13th Press. They are on Etsy as well. Beautiful. Bohemian Gothic in its wooden box. So this was new the end of 2024 with the re-release of it. I got the ones with these backs and the smaller size. Even then, it's still a little too big. I love that people have the minis. The minis are adorable. Fantastic deck. Was on the wish list for a very long time, and it came back out, and of course I jumped on it. I think a lot of people did. Very interesting cold stamping. I believe they use that to prevent people from illegally copying it, because when the scanner goes over it, it looks like that, which, good on you. I'm here for it, because that would be awful to put your hard-earned energy, time, and money into creating something only to have people rip it off. So good for you. What was my reading about this day? Oh, work. It was my last day of training before the new person, or the person that was training me, went on vacation for over 2 weeks. And I feel the reading spoke to how I was feeling about that. I was very nervous, not looking forward to being on my own without him, and to take advantage of the day I had, my last day with him. So, accurate category. Beautiful. And I did want to use this. I think I purposely planned this to be my last spooky season deck. Not spooky season, but just in that kind of category. So this deck was used on day 44. Second last one that I used, also new for 2025. Realizing how many decks I've purchased this year. Tarot of Gemstones and Minerals. I got this off eBay, an AGM, made in Belgium. This is the newer version of this deck. You can get this off of, mine came like this. You can get it off of eBay or, Amazon. I got mine off eBay because it was oddly cheaper to do it that way. I like the first edition so much better. I feel like the first edition actually looks more modern than this one, which is usually not the case. I edged it in black Sharpie. Here's our backs. Meh. They would probably be like top 5 least favorite, top 7, top 8 least favorite. I wasn't sure how I was going to work with this deck. I still am not, well, it's not that I'm not sure. It's just there's so many ways to work with it. I don't know that a tarot reading is going to be its primary function. One of the reasons why I wanted this crystal tarot deck, there's lots of crystal oracles out there. I like that it was put into, they were assigned a tarot card. Love that. But I also own the majority of crystals in this deck. So if I want to just pull a card in the morning, what deck or what crystal do I need to work with? And boom, we get pyrite. What crystal do I need to carry with me today? What crystal do I need to research? Maybe I don't own it. So what crystal do I need to research? There you go. Guidebook. What do we have? What's it like? I mean, it's a little white book, but thicker than normal. 5 of Swords is a pearl, symbol of beauty and purity, as well as honesty. It shows us the depths of our being. So I like that they relate the gemstone to the card. Anyone prepared to confront these depths and break through rigid thought patterns can grow and continue to develop as a result. It provides good protection against negative impressions. Tarot interpretation, defeat, loss, battle, meanness, admitting errors, shadow aspect, thoughts of revenge, poor prospects, insecurity, weakness. So I'll go to the guidebook if I don't know what the card is, or what the crystal is. But for the most part, I don't really use the book. And the reading is our accurate category. This was second last deck. It was day 48. It was day technically day 49 because I missed a day. So it was the second last deck I used. All cups. My first day by myself at my new job. It was a very emotional day because an accident happened at work. Not like my entire work profile ended up being deleted, and it was terrible news. It looked like I had been fired, and the IT guy that I called to figure out why I couldn't log into my computer, I think he thought I'd been fired and wouldn't tell me anything, and was like, you need to speak to your manager. You need to speak to your manager. And it caused a lot of problems for me. It's still to this day causing problems for me because my entire work profile was deleted. And it was a really emotional day. So I definitely think that cups reflected that, landing it in the accurate category. And that concludes the accurate category-ish. There are some decks from the accurate category that I want to talk about at the end. So again, I don't think I'm going to be, I don't know if you can see the Sharpie, the metallic look. That's what I don't like about using Sharpies. Anyway, I don't think its main purpose will be tarot readings. I think its main purpose will be for working with crystals, which is why I got it. So that tracks. I forgot one for my accurate category, so I'll have to splice it in at the end here. The Divine Feminine by Kokorina. So this was nearing the end. I keep a star, tiger's eye in there. This is an indie deck. It's still in fairly good condition. I don't know how, but I am very gentle with my decks. This is like butter. It is very slippery. It does have reversible backs. This one is sold out, but they are, I think, like right now releasing the next edition of it, which is different looking. It doesn't look like this. It's a little different. So if you want this one, they are re-releasing the next edition, but just know that it is different. This deck, for the longest time, and even still to an extent, I think of this as my soul deck, but it's not like my favorite to work with. It gives me soul deck type readings. It's not that it's not a favorite. I do love it. I enjoy it. I'm never getting rid of it. But it is very gentle with me, very soft with me. It tells me what I need to hear at the same time. It's just a really good reader for me. More so when I first got the deck. I've had it for a few years now, and I did struggle a little with the imagery as it relates to the RWS meanings, but with the relationship that I've built with it, I don't even really notice that anymore. We do have some gold stamping, gold foiling on here. It never translates right on camera, but it's beautiful and it's stunning. So my reading for this one, this was a little different in the sense that it wasn't about work. It wasn't predictive. I felt like it was about my body. I felt like it was about pain and discomfort that I was having this particular day. And I feel like that tracks for this deck and how it speaks to me. So this is another good one, another favorite, one that I enjoy. It is a really soothing deck to use. I enjoy how it feels. It is a bit of a pain because it is so slidey, but it feels like butter, and it fits perfectly in my hands. It's just really nice. I don't know what the next version will be, if it'll be the same, but one of my favorites. So that is the accurate deck that I missed out on. Okay, we have another deck from the accurate category that I just didn't highlight anything in my workbook, so I missed it. Oak, Ash, and Thorn. I have the volume 1.1. This is a favorite. This is an absolute favorite of mine. This is the epitome of a comfort deck for me. And I think I purchased the deck because it reminds me of my grandma's. My grandma lives in the middle of nowhere in the country. We always, when I talk to her on the phone, what we talk about the most is all the animals and all the critters running around. The crows, the blue jays, the squirrels, the chipmunks, rabbits, skunks, all of it. Deer, elk, moose, caribou? Not elk, caribou. Yeah, it is my grandma's. We've had recent conversations about fox, owls. So I've also kind of accidentally and intentionally linked this deck to my grandma's in the sense that this is the deck that I bring almost every time I go there. So now the deck, I have that link to my grandma's with this deck. It's not just the imagery that reminds me of it, but the actual deck itself now reminds me of my grandma's, and I love that. So I'm not getting the updated version of this. I personally love the font on these cards. I love it. It's a little tiny, yep, but I don't care. I enjoy it. So I don't like the font on the new ones, on the updated ones. So this one's staying, and I'm not getting the new ones. As far as any other decks from Three Trees Tarot, I don't know. None of them hit quite like this one for me. So I have no plans to get any of the other ones. So special, comfort, sweet, gentle, oak, ash, and thorn. Was an accurate reading. My mom and I went to the Titanic exhibit on this day, and it ended up being a reflection of that day for me. So it was accurate. I just didn't, clerical error, didn't highlight the words I was supposed to highlight. On to the next category, which I've decided to do the good advice decks. So these decks were highlighted in purple, and the word that stood out was good advice. So what happened here was I found that these readings didn't resonate with my day, but they were good advice nonetheless, like good general reminders. So to start, it's a smaller category, 7 decks. To start, we have the Wild Unknown. My first ever tarot deck purchase. It's funny, I used to love this cardstock. I remember getting it in my hands, and it is satisfying, but it's also quite chunky. And I noticed that in doing this experiment was that it was actually kind of difficult to shuffle, which was interesting. So snakeskin backs, kind of love it. We all obviously know this one. It's been around for what feels like forever. My first tarot deck. Also, is it warped as well? What's going on with my decks? So yeah, good general advice. Again, didn't resonate with my day necessarily, but good advice nonetheless. So the interpretation I got from this was a message to change perspective or be okay in the discomfort, because there is hope and a way forward. So it didn't resonate with my day, but I liked the message that it provided. This was, like I said, my first ever tarot deck. I watched plenty of YouTube videos, and it was honestly like 50-50 of people saying it's a good first deck. A good learning deck, and people saying absolutely not, this is not a good learning deck. And in purchasing it, I learned for me it was not a good learning deck, but now we're okay. Doesn't get used a whole lot. The deck was in like pretty pristine condition. Doesn't get used a lot because sometimes I do have a little trouble interpreting the image for the tarot card, but that's okay. The next one that was good advice nonetheless, and another new one for 2025. The Stunning Tarot. This was the first and only so far deck that I had purchased from a collector's standpoint. I don't like the idea of purchasing a tarot deck strictly for collecting, but they are little individual pieces of art, and that's what I loved about this deck. The reason why I kind of put it in the, oh, I'm going to buy it as a collector item mental place on my shelf is because of the size and shape of it. I've been working with it this year. I've used it a lot this year. And I've kind of MacGyvered ways of shuffling it that are very, very different from what I normally do. And they are working. I need practice with it. It's still pretty messy, but I do need practice with it. Love the colors. Obviously, I love the deck. That's why I purchased it, even though I knew it would be trickier for me to work with. I think all of my readings have been fantastic with this deck so far this year. It's kind of come out of the, oh, it's going to be a collector's item into, this is a working deck. This is going to be a working deck. And that was a happy surprise. Love that. What was the message for this one? We had the Eight of Cups plus the Devil plus the Page of Swords. I did not write down my interpretation, which I don't know why I didn't do that. But I wrote down that it was good advice nonetheless. So I'm not sure where I was thinking with it. I mean, you can interpret that how you will with those cards, but at the time I thought it was good advice. Wish I would have wrote that down. Lessons were learned in tarot journaling also on this experiment. Oh no, I did write it down. It's just on the next page. A message to move on from temptation and something about communicating clearly, perhaps? Also new for 2025. Kind of goes with the Cracked Amethyst Tarot, though. They all came in the same order. The Idiosyncratic, or Idiosyncratic? I always want to say Idiosyncratic. Idiosyncratic. Love when tuck boxes do that. Obviously a mini guy. I was going to say, I think this was the first time I used this deck, but I actually... It's a clone of the first one, the Cracked Amethyst one. It's just the Cracked Amethyst was updated with the digital artwork and some of the cards were changed. I'm going to hold this because it's small. I don't feel like zooming in. So yes, I do... Oh, I think it was the first... I'll have to check my stats. Hold on. Yes. It was the first and only time I've used this deck this year. I thought about swapping out the Everyday Witch mini for my purse deck to be this one, which I can do. I thought about keeping this one at my work desk so that I have a tarot deck at my work desk, but I have one in my purse at all times, so I don't know. What do we have here for our message? Well, let's look. Let's look at the cards first. Adorable. Cute little mini guy. Again, did not purchase this in the Kickstarter for this. The goal was to get to the Amethyst Oracle, which was a add-on after the campaign reached a certain amount of money. So I think this was optional, but I do think I decided to back it, to include it. I think it was an add-on as well, and I decided to keep it. I don't know, but it is really cute. It is really adorable. This one I could see like reading with friends in a park somewhere, like out in public, where it's a little less noticeable, not as easy to be blown away by the wind, a little more manageable in the hands when you're out in a public place. I talk about these things like I do them. I will never do that. I will never be in a park reading tarot with friends. But in my delusional little perfect world, I would do that. So let's talk about our message, because I think that's cute. I think it's interesting. Okay, it's a little more, it is kind of specific. And I do note that it's a continuation of the previous day's reading, which was with the Sexual Magic Tarot. It pertained to work. And what did I say about it? Walk away from giving back to my old unit and moving on to things that will fill my cup. So what were my cards? Eight of Cups, Six of Pentacles, and Ace of Cups. Eight of Cups came up a lot. And I know another card that came up a lot during all of this, which is hilarious, was the Six of Swords. So moving on to calmer waters, perhaps, moving on to something better for myself. So I found it very interesting that the Six of Swords came up frequently. Oh my God, another random upside down card. In a situation where it was very Six of Swords for me. But the Six of Swords wasn't in this reading, so. Anyway, good advice. The next one in the good advice category is the Little Wizards Tarot by Push Kitty. Got this off Kickstarter in the mini. It seems to be a lot of mini decks in this one. Look at these extra cards. This whole section, we've got a title card and extra cards. Love that. I edged it in purple, just a Crayola purple to try and match. It's a little bit brighter It's a little more lavender muted. It's actually like a gradient as well, but close enough. A Halloween deck. This was a, like, it was in the Samhain category. I'm going to hold it again because it's small. God, I love me a Harry Potter deck. I have 2 of them. The other one is yet to be discussed. We will get there. This one is more, a little more adolescent, a lot more adolescent than the other one. The other one I find is quite intense. So I like that they balance each other out that way. If I'm feeling a cutesy Harry Potter reading, here we have this one. If I'm feeling a more serious reading, serious, then I will go to the other one. But this one is adorable. Love that it's a mini and just fantastic. Love it. It's adorable. Let's talk about my reading. What was it? Now that I'm reading my journal entry, I actually do kind of feel like it is a reflection of the day, but a reminder. It was another social situation that can be heavy. Not celebratory like the other social situation, but this one is, it has the tendency to get a little heavy, a little emotional. And I interpreted the reading on this particular day to be a message of changing my perspective or being uncomfortable for some positive cooperation to benefit the Empress figure, which was one of the individuals I was going to see this day, which kind of makes me think it was, I don't know why I put it in the good advice category. Let me check my other notes. Oh, I know why. It wasn't, the word I highlighted wasn't good advice. It was a good lesson. So I just highlighted it in purple. I was just going through my notes and I highlighted it in purple because I obviously didn't look into it further for what my reading was and what the message was. So I think it's both. I think it works for a good message for the day itself, but also a good lesson in general. So there we have the Little Wizards Tarot by Push Kitty in the mini from her Kickstarter indie deck. I am pretty sure you can still get this. Not 100% positive. Oh my god, another mini deck. Speak of the Everyday Witch, we have the Everyday Witch mini. This is the one I keep in my purse, and I found the absolute perfect peggy bag for it. This, I found it warps keeping it in here. I have a little piece of blue kyanite because it's just blue. It warps a little. So I try, it's actually, I was going to say it's doing so well. It's not. It's better than it was. So when I put it back in the bag, I try and, let's shuffle it to get rid of that line. I try and split it in half and reverse one of the sides. Anyway, Everyday Witch mini, perfection. Current purse deck. One thing I don't love about the mini is that writing is itty bitty. This is not a deck to read in low light situations, which kind of sucks because being the purse deck, sometimes it's the deck that I have wherever I'm at, which isn't necessarily in the best lighting. So you kind of have to like really get in there, really bring it up to your face to read that. I don't want the full version though. At one point I did. I have decided that I am okay with just this one. I really like, it's a very easy reader. This is one of the easiest readers I have. Very simple, very straightforward, Rider-Waite-Smith clone. What was my message for this little guy? Take time to yourself to think about the direction you want to go or options you have and what will give back to you. Oh, that's good. But again, I did in my journal note that it was not a reflection of my day. So when I put her back, let's reverse it because they were facing each other. Let's do back to back and see what that'll do. Zombie Tarot. Fantastic. This deck is so good. It's so funny and quirky. Love that the box is a ammunition box. The guidebook is done so well. I want to edge it similar to the Lord of the Rings tarot just because it's like very sepia and then white and then black. Not edging it in black because I don't want it to bleed over, but I look forward to using this every fall, and I love using it with the Memento Mori, but for these purposes, it was just the tarot deck, and since it's in the good advice category, it gave us good advice. So I did say I asked for a message for my day, which I always did. If I pulled it in the morning, just give me a message for my day, and oh, it was a Six of Swords day. The Six of Swords is the message the cards have been drilling into me for the last couple of days. On towards better things. Emperor is a reminder to be confident and in control, and the Chariot is the card of progress and movement. Although I don't feel like a lot of progress was made today. It's one day more information than I had yesterday. Ooh, I could have been flipping through these. We know this one though. This is not, oh my God, what is happening with the random one-off reversed cards? Oh, two off reversed cards. That like almost never happens. Anyway, I guess maybe when you go through all of your decks at once, it's you're gonna come across it more. Okay. It is thundering outside in mid-November. So we have Zombie Tarot, hilarious. It was not one that I ever wanted because some of the images are a little, I don't want to say off-putting, but maybe I'm trying to get one here. Like we have a man missing a chunk of his leg and holding a brain on a surfboard, but he's on a surfboard and that's funny. So I think when you consider the humor in the deck, that is what does it for me. Because this deck has that humor, it's become a favorite. This is a great Tower card. I'm still trying to look for one that is a little more off-putting. But the humor saves it for me. The humor not only saves it, but the humor makes it for me. Oh. I did use this deck after my 47 decks in 47 days, so maybe I just put those back in incorrectly. Yeah, kind of, you know, not my cup of tea imagery-wise, but when you factor in the humor, it is my cup of tea. So that's what saves it. Love working with this with the Memento Mori. They speak so well to each other. And it's perfect. I look forward to using it every fall. This is another good one for my friends, although I don't think I have read with them. I did do a pick a card YouTube video with them, and the spread was Would We Survive a Zombie Apocalypse? So it was kind of like a story spread, which I absolutely loved and was so much fun to do in a pick a card video for them. But I haven't done one of those in years, maybe two. But I would love to read with them in person because we do have a zombie apocalypse plan. You heard me. We actually have a zombie apocalypse plan. We've got our people picked out. We have our roles picked out. We have specific duties for each role picked out. And I love that for us. So it'd be really fun to do that with them one day. Last one. Where are we in the journal with this one? I don't have the box on hand, which is unfortunate. Hold on. I'll have to get it because it's kind of important. Oh my gosh, I broke it down so it's flattened and it's put in storage. I can't grab it. Sorry, I lied. But this is the Dark Forest deck. It is plastic. And it is a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, slightly zoomed in and recolored. I bought this deck because I have a swimming pool. I often go to cottages with lakes. So this is the deck that usually gets brought because it can get wet. It can get food spilled on it, which we're always eating and drinking. So it can get food spilled on it. It can fly into the lake. And as long as I can recover it, it'll be fine. So that's why I purchased this deck. I'm hoping... Dark Forest. Is Dark Forest the name of the Etsy shop? They have a ton of decks. They're always 70% off. And they're Rider-Waite-Smith clones. All right. It is getting so dark in here with that thunderstorm rolling in. So, I love the recoloring. Some cards are better than others, but I enjoy it. Like I said, a little zoomed in. Some of the titles at the bottom are a little off kilter, a little crooked because of where they chose to zoom in, I guess. Maybe that wasn't even a decision. Maybe just in the editing process, it zoomed in on its own. I don't know. It does bite a little when you shuffle it because being the plastic cardstock, it bites into the thumb pits ever so slightly. So it's not one, here's an example of the title being a little off kilter. It's not one that I would like to use a lot. Another one, because it does bite. But it's fantastic to have. I think for me, it's very practical to have a plastic deck that can get yucky. And this deck is our last deck in the good advice category. Let's shuffle it. Let's see how stiff it is with the plastic. Not too bad. It's not great, but a little stiff, but yeah, wow, lots of blue when you fan it out. Like this guy, what was my reading? So this was one of those situations where it was like the first thing that came to mind, and that's what I wrote down, because I do think there's something to be said about a message that immediately pops into your mind, like a sentence, advice. Oh, now the rain has started. Whatever it may be, I think that you should take that. I think sometimes you need to hear that. And the first message that popped into my mind with this one was, patience and hard work leads to happiness and having everything you need to move forward. So what did I get? 7 of Pentacles, 9 of Cups, plus the Magician. So not a reflection of my day, but I still got some good advice about it. Good advice from it. Interesting backs. I guess they kind of match. And that concludes our good advice category. Okay, we're going to get into the meh category. I have to preface this by saying that I love these decks. I'm not getting rid of a single one of these decks. And for most of these decks, it was odd to have it not resonate at all, not feel like it was a good advice scenario. I just didn't feel it. And that could be a reflection of my mental state that day. Maybe I wasn't firing at all cylinders, so I couldn't piece it together. It doesn't mean anything. The fact that these are in this category does not mean anything. So just take that as you will. So we're gonna go back to the beginning of the journal and start with the ones that didn't really do anything for me. Friends Tarot. This is, I believe, out of print now. I searched high and low for this deck because I just had to have it. There are some title cards. Are they? Oh, yeah, just one. Okay. I was able to find it on like Urban Planet's website. Fantastic backs, by the way. It had to be. But I think now it's out of print. This is, the artist is, what is her name? Chantal D'Souza. And it is by Smith Street Gifts. I love this deck. I love Friends. However, that being said, when I go back and rewatch these episodes, they are cringy to me. They are a little cringy. So it doesn't hit the same as it did back in my high school days when I would religiously watch this show. But I love the deck nonetheless, and I love using it. And this time, it just didn't hit. And that's okay. I don't use this deck often. I think this might have been another deck in my 2024 video where I talked about the decks I didn't use that year. So this might have been another one that I didn't use at all in 2024. And I think I've only used it this one time so far in 2025. Yep, this is the only time I've used it. So but that's okay. Like, I don't want to get rid of it, especially like remembering what I went through to get it. And I do love, this is another deck to work with friends. It's another good one to have to work with friends. I haven't done it in a really long time though, obviously. So maybe this is another one to bring to a girls' weekend or something. But it is a little bit bigger. I can, just barely get my hands around it. So it's a little on the larger side, but I like it. I think it helps with the artwork to have it be a little larger. I love it. They also have one for the office, which I almost bought, and I was like, you know what, you don't use this one enough, so that's our first kind of meh reading. Okay, I actually wrote down, I have no idea how to interpret this. Oh, the next one. This was the next day. 2 days in a row of meh decks. Is there another one? No, it was just 2 days in a row. I do enjoy this deck. Extra cards and stickers, which I have yet to use. Love me some stickers. But I have struggled with it. I have struggled with this deck. I'm not going to lie. I did build a better relationship with it at the beginning of this year. So I thought we were good. And then here we have it in the meh category again. I have thought about rehoming this. And then when I built a better relationship with it the beginning of this year, I was like, no, we're good. But I do like it. I thoroughly enjoy it. So I love the tin. It's really good for packing if you're going away on a little more of a trip that, you know, you're not just bringing an overnight bag, maybe something a little bigger, a suitcase. I like that it's in a tin. The tin does take up a lot of room though. It's kind of a larger tin, but it's in a tin and better protected. So I don't know. I love it. I love the artist, Mari in the Sky. There we go. But it landed in the meh pile. That's okay. I'm not, you know, this isn't making or breaking anything. It's just what, and some of these decks you're going to see, they're my all-time favorites. They're decks that I love, and they just had a bad day. We just had a bad day together. We didn't work out together. Sassarabito. I keep it in this Crystal Haven bag that came with a Kickstarter for a different deck. But I think it fits the Sassarabito really well. I have the Traveler edition of the Sassarabito, which isn't linen, but it is a bit of a different texture. Very, very flexible. Like it almost feels like it's going to bend when you shuffle it. But it doesn't. I don't know. It holds up really well. So that's good. Love these backs. Favorites. It ended in the mail list. This deck is kept in my home office desk. So if I'm working during the day and I want to do a reading, she's right there to grab. This deck doesn't really stand out to me. Like I have stories about the other decks. I have relationships with the other decks, and this one I don't. Like I couldn't even tell you how this deck typically reads for me because nothing stands out. Unfortunately, because I am sitting at my computer desk in a separate room when I use this, the polls don't get journaled. So maybe that's why, you know, writing them down, I don't remember them. But I love the interpretation on a lot of these cards. So it's going to stay. Like I said, none of these decks are going anywhere just because they had a bad day. I love that I have the Traveler's edition, and it's so, it's another feel-good one, but it does feel like I'm going to break it. Feels like I'm going to just fold that right in half. But like I said, for some reason it's held up. So the reading for the Sassarabito, where are we? All majors, and I said I actually have no idea how this is a message or a reflection for my day today. All majors. And I find that does happen with me when I get all majors. It's a bit of a struggle for me because I feel like those are big picture things, and I'm not a big picture person. I'm very much a day-to-day person. Figure out tomorrow. So all majors tend to trip me up because I feel like it's a very profound, long-term message, and that's not me. So I feel like that probably had a lot to do with the rating this deck received, but again, not going anywhere. In fact, it's going right back to my work desk because that's become its home and that's become its purpose and its use, and that's where it's going to stay. Oh, this one sucks. The Unofficial Shitty Tarot. This was a Kickstarter by Heidi Page and Ashley Brock. Illustrations by Matt Edwards. You can still get this one. The website is like Juju Boutique or something like that. We have extra cards. We have a little book. Here's our backs. Rose gold and rose gold edges. Don't really care for them, but whatever. A linen cardstock. I have bent one of these and it broke my heart. Okay, so this is another fun one. My friends love this deck. We're all fans of Schitt's Creek. And it just didn't hit this day. And this deck has been a good reader for my friends. I remember the readings for my friends because I think it drew some tears. So I remember that. This is a really well done pop culture deck. Very well done. I love how they've made the art look. I love the scenes and the imageries that they've chosen for each of the tarot meanings. They work really well together. There's a couple that I'm like, ooh, but I think that's to be expected with any pop culture deck. And it landed in the meh category. What happened? What went wrong here? I actually decorated the Dollarama store in Canada had a Schitt's Creek game, and my mom bought it for me for Christmas one year, which I have played with my friends, and it came with stickers. So I decorated my journal this day with these Schitt's Creek stickers. How fitting. They're reading. So I reflected on it the next day because I didn't get it. It was a morning reading, I believe. Yes, AM card pull. And the next day I went back to my journal and reflected on it. And I was like, I don't see how this was a message. The one card, yes, but the other two, no. What was the one card? 10 of Cups. So not sure what happened there. And again, it could be just a reflection of my state of mind on that particular day. Another one that is a heartbreaker for me. Saint Soleil Beginner's Tarot from the Saint Soleil website. Box is somewhere. Let's have a gander at the box because I never keep it in the box. Lucid Dreams Beginner's Tarot. It might go by a different name now. I have the 3rd edition. It has keywords and saintsoleil.com. The guidebook is at my desk downstairs. This is a favorite. This is a favorite deck of mine. I love the artwork. I love the option of the keywords. I think it's my only tarot deck with keywords. We have gold foil, gold stamping. Very beautiful. It's a very beautiful deck. And I feel like the keywords don't stand out. They blend in quite a bit. I kept a piece of incense with this deck for a while, and it's still, I have not done that for like probably a couple years, and I can still smell the incense on this deck. Beautiful. We've got astrological symbols, planetary symbols. One of my favorite decks. This is a keeper. This card has changed, I believe, for the world. And it didn't hit this day. And I was shocked. There's a couple decks where I was shocked. Completely shocked. But just an off day. And it was right after the Unofficial Shitty Tarot. So 2 days in a row, again, of decks that just didn't hit. I did not guard my resources today. Not really sure how this message is a reflection of my day. So I got the 4 of Pentacles, 7 of Pentacles, and King of Cups. So maybe it had to do with not guarding my resources today. I think I spent money. I think that's what I did. Anyway, a little disappointing, a little shocking. Still staying. It's not going anywhere. This is another one that's a little tricky to shuffle because it is quite thick cardstock. I don't think I ever shuffle it this way. For some reason, I always overhand this guy. Oh. Not too bad. but not great. So yeah, I mean, it happens. It happens, guys. Kind of shocking, but oh well. My notes for this one is funny. Tarot of Persephone's Garden. I used this one a lot so far in 2025. I did a tarot challenge, a Lion's Heart tarot challenge with this deck. It got a lot of use. I have anointed it in a pomegranate oil. It smells fantastic. So good. But we have meh. My notes are actually hilarious for this reading. I love this deck. It's great. Who is it? Oh, what is her name? Kara Small. Fantastic deck. Just didn't have a good day. My notes from this day are a message regarding the material realm that I should use my intuition for to choose a direction, ? Haha, I ended up cleaning my car. Very insightful on this particular day. Very deep thoughts happening in my tarot journal. So yeah, it ended up in the meh category because I didn't get anything out of the reading that day. And, you know, what were the cards? My cards were the Ace of Pentacles plus the High Priestess plus the Chariot. The Chariot for my car is kind of funny, but I mean, maybe people listening will be like, oh my God, that's such an obvious message for cleaning out your car. And yeah, I mean, the High Priestess is throwing me off a little bit, but yeah, the Chariot, sure. But yeah, it just, you know, it was just one of those days. Just one of those days with this deck, and I wasn't feeling it. And that's okay. But it's staying. It's not going anywhere again. None of these decks are. So just a bad day. Another meh. Game of Thrones. Got my hands on the linen cardstock from Facebook Marketplace, and I was overjoyed. What's happening? Oh, it warped. So I did the same thing I did with the Everyday Witch, and I'm trying to store it so that it maybe gets its shape back. And I just did this. I just put it back because I was using it. So it hasn't really been enough time. But yes, I got my hands on the linen cardstock because now when you buy this, it is a mass market deck. It was mass market with the linen cardstock, but now when you buy it, it is like glossy, shiny, cheaper feeling cardstock. So super glad I was able to, I didn't know it was the linen cardstock when I found the Facebook Marketplace listing. It came up, it was $10, and I thought, well, if I'm going to buy the Game of Thrones Tarot, which I think this is a fantastically done pop culture deck, I love it, but I didn't want to pay full price for crappy cardstock, so I was like, yeah, I'll pay $10 and get crappy cardstock and not feel so bad about it. And then I got in my car and opened it, and it was linen cardstock. Score of the year for me. Yeah, we just didn't have a good day. I have worked with this deck, let's see, yeah, a few times. A little more than a handful of times, I'd say, this year. Nothing's standing out as far as like, I've had fantastic readings with it, or I've had not so fantastic readings, so nothing is standing out. This time it was just not a great one. Again, I just wrote in my journal, I have no idea how to apply this to my day. The end. But I do think it's very well done. I think this is a fantastic pop culture deck. I have had friends who've requested this deck for readings, and they like it as well. So, oh, I want to do a rewatch. Yeah, but the cardstock, it's really like, it's all kinds of warped. It's curving up on this corner. It's curving down. I don't know what to do with this. And I keep it in its box. Yeah, there's a whole lot happening there. I'm wondering if, like, the temperature changing in my room with going from summer to fall, if that's causing problems with my decks, perhaps. This one I don't really know how to feel about in general. It is the Heaven and Earth Tarot Mass Market. It has these gray backs, so I edged it in gray, and when you edge something in a lighter marker, wherever you go over that spot, it shows. But I actually don't mind it. I kind of like how it's not so uniform because the back isn't. I think it works. Okay, This was a learning deck because it does have some Thoth influences, so I purchased it for that reason. It's also, I feel like, a really good winter deck. Today would be the perfect day to use this deck because the sky looks like this right now. Well, minus the ring of sun. The sky actually does look just like this at the moment. It's very dark, very gray. So that's kind of when I tend to pull this deck out. It doesn't get used in the summer like at all. Spring probably really either. The titles are they Thoth-based titles? No, they're RWS, I think, for the most part. We've got some little symbols at the bottom, which the guidebook doesn't really clarify. So you got to do some research. There's a couple great YouTube videos that I can't for the life of me think who did them. But if you search this deck, you'll find some really good YouTube videos and walkthroughs where there's one, I think it's a gentleman, I think it's a guy who, yeah, there we have Strife. He talks about it and it's great. Have I remembered or learned anything from it? No. I still don't know what the symbols are. Just because I haven't worked with it enough. But it was not good. Not good for my little experiment. I wrote a lot about it though. Yeah, I went for a run on this day with my trail running club, and I thought, you know, maybe if I stretched it, I could link it to that, but I had to stretch it. I had to like really think about it, and that was the only thing I could come up with. So heaven and earth. Again, it's not going anywhere. I do enjoy this deck. Down the line, I could probably see myself maybe rehoming it, but right now, no, I don't mind it. It's perfect. Perfect for days like today. Maybe I'll try it again today. Santa Muerte. Mini, obviously. I like my mini because I don't like how the titles go up the side on the larger version. So I don't mind the mini. I wish they didn't do white borders. I feel like that's such a waste of space when you are already dealing with such a limited amount of space for the artwork. You could extend it that much further or zoom it in that much more, whatever. I struggle with this deck regularly. This is no surprise to me that I struggled with this reading on this particular day. I love this deck. I think it's beautiful. Love the imagery. Love skeletons, skulls, Santa Muerte. Kind of makes me think Day of the Dead. So I have a special place in my heart for the Day of the Dead festival. It just didn't work. Again, I could see myself giving this to my sister though. Although I do think I think there's a few cards that will trip you up if you're not familiar with the tarot. And yeah, there's just some that I don't really click with, don't really understand. And I think that's kind of, maybe that has something to do with my reading interpretations when it comes to this deck. I don't know, but it is beautiful. I love it. What happened here? What happened in my day? Again, it was a run club day, and that was the only thing I could attempt to link it to if I tried. So very similar to the last one. Was it 2 days in a row? Nope. So Santa Muerte, but I'm not surprised by this one. Also not going anywhere. If anything, I would give it to my sister at the moment, but right now it's not going anywhere. Dark Mansion. When I look at my journal for this day, it's just like I'm reaching all over the place. I say, oh yeah, this card I feel like it could resonate for this situation, but then I don't know about what this card could mean for that situation. Like it was very discombobulated, and that's what landed it in this category. This is that thicker, heavier rose petal finish I was talking about. Like that's 2 cards, and I can't even tell. I can't even feel that it's 2 cards. Love these backs though. I selected my backs for this deck. Love when you can do that. So I selected this back as opposed to like the brown jeweled kind of one. This deck typically gives me very sassy readings. A little bitey, a little stingy, but funny. Oddly enough, it still maintains a sense of humor while kicking me in the ass. So since doing this little experiment, I have done readings with this deck, and it has maintained that personality. This particular day, it did not. I was just reaching for how to relate that to my day, and I didn't reach it very well. So that's how it landed in this category. but I love it. It's adorable. It's very Tim Burton, very Samhain for me, very fall. That's when it gets used. It's not going anywhere. And it's the deck I go to when I feel like I need a sassy sense of humor response. And I love it. And the last one for this category, breaks my heart a little bit. Again, it means nothing. But I was not expecting it. Because this is a deck that I have had fantastic experiences with and fantastic readings. And that's the Sistine Tarot by Rose Bay. So we just had an off day. I haven't used this deck since this particular reading. It's not really a deck I use at this time of year. That being said, I love this deck so much that I will use it whenever I want. But right now, I just have other decks that I'm working with. So I haven't busted it out since the experiment to see if it goes back to its usual self, if we go back to our typical readings together. But it just had a bad day. We had a bad day. And I didn't even really elaborate in my journal. I just said, I don't see this for today. What did I get? The Fool, Chariot, Page of Cups. Seems like a pretty cool reading. It's just I was like, I don't know how to make this work for today. And also, like I've said repeatedly in this section, it could have just been a reflection of my mental state. Like, you know, you kind of get yourself in a, I don't know. I can't think. I don't know what this relates to. I got nothing. And you could have just been that. You know, it happens. For me, anyway. But this deck is absolutely not going anywhere. I love her so much. And we just had a bad day. That now concludes the mess section. And I'll move on to the last section, which isn't really a section, but I didn't want to end on a bad section. So I've got a bunch of other decks to talk about, good news-wise. And because I don't want to land on a bad note, I'm going to talk about some of the standout decks and their reasons for standing out. And I think that's a good place to finish. So we have a handful of decks to talk about before we're done. And that can be for a number of reasons. So here we have the Golden Art Nouveau. I have made reference to my yes decks, and this was a yes deck. Second least favorite back after the John Bauer. This is my go-to RWS. I don't love the RWS, so this is the one I go to when I want that RWS feel, look. It's a little more spiffied up with the gold, and the faces, it's not entirely a clone, but the faces I find are more relatable, and I feel like you can get more from the reading with the more detailed faces. So it's just my go-to, and it was definitely a deck I was looking forward to using. There were a handful of them that I was like, oh yes, I can't wait to use this deck. Like when I woke up that morning and I saw that that was the deck on the list for that day, it was like, yes. And you know, it's because I haven't used them in a while, or they are just all-time favorites, or I was genuinely curious how they would perform. And this was one of them. And this is a forever deck. It's been in my top 10 both times I did my top 10 decks videos, because it is my RWS pick. My reading, what was it? This one was interesting because I do feel like the reading pertained to my physical body, which was different from a lot of the other readings I had been getting, you know, with my career situation and even running. I feel like I did have a couple that pertained to running, but more so the events that happened while running. And this one was, I felt the message was more so about my physical body. So that was interesting. And this is another one of those decks where I think it'll be interesting in the future to, you know, if I do have something going on with my body, to use this deck and see what it gives me. Or if just general readings in the future pertain to my physical body. So this is a keeper. I really just feel the backs don't match the deck at all. And we have a piece of black tourmaline. Yes, black tourmaline with this one. should have a gold, maybe a piece of pyrite in there. The Robin Wood Tarot. This one was interesting. This has been off and on my purgatory list a few times now. It's been off of the list for a while. I did hear rumors that it was going out of print or it was out of print, but I don't know that for certain. It's not confirmed, so I haven't looked it up. So I don't know. It could be out of print. This was a beginner deck that I bought very early on in my tarot journey. I thought it was before I got the Golden Art Nouveau, so it was kind of the Rider-Waite-Smith replacement I was looking for, and it just never hit. I could never make this deck work, no matter how hard I tried. It just wasn't for me. This time, I will say, the day that I chose to use this deck, I did a morning pull. And in the evening, I went to a friend's house where this friend discussed their breakup extensively for a very long time. It was a lot of hours of talking about this breakup and reviewing all of the little tiny details that you review when going through a breakup. And in hindsight, when I got home and read my card pull for that day, I felt like the message was very much for that person. It was a reflection of what that person was going through, and subsequently what I would have to listen to for several hours of my evening. So I think this would also be interesting to see in the future if this is a good deck to use for other people. So I'm looking forward to kind of checking that out. Oh, he's stunning. I'm looking forward to checking that out in the future. And, you know, it doesn't happen often where I have opportunities to read for other people, but it'll be interesting to see if it's a good other people reader. So there we have the Robin Wood Tarot. This is another one I just can't take off. Like, I don't use it often, and I can't let it go. It was another earlier purchase, the Mermaid Tarot by Llewellyn. It was an earlier purchase in my tarot journey, and I do love it. I love the imagery. Don't love the big box that comes along with it, but I do love the imagery with this. I'm not even a big like mermaid person, but this deck I think is just really well done, in my opinion. Like, I enjoy it. It gets used in the summer. I did buy an accompanying oracle deck, Ocean something or other, and I've since let that go. But I do have one of those little rock pool ones, a mermaid rock pool one that I use with it. Again, in the summer, it's very much a summer deck, but this one was spot on. Actually wrote spot on in my notes about this deck. So my notes didn't say it was predictive, and when I read the tarot journal, it's more just to do with what happened that day, and what I was going through in my, like, mentally as well. I talk about a feeling of letdown and then being brought back up by good news. I don't remember what the feeling of letdown was, though. I should be more specific in my journal entries, but I specifically wrote spot on for this one. So that's why I saved it to the end here, because she did good. Just reiterated why I keep her. The HP Tarot that I keep in this bag that I got from Etsy specifically for the deck. I love it. It's perfect. Fits the vibe. This, I am sad to say, is out of print at the moment. Whether it comes back, I don't know. There's been an updated version since this one, but they are out of print. You can check the creator's website occasionally because it's gone out, come back, gone out, come back. It's Paper Day Loon. So, I mean, fingers crossed for you if this is something you want. This is my very intense Harry Potter deck. All black and white, and gray. And I love it. I love, it's very well done. Again, only to be used specific times. Not an overly joyous deck, I would say. I mean, there's definitely some happy moments, but there's a lot of moments in here that are very sad. Funny. Empowering. but it is pretty intense. And I have I've always had an appreciation for this deck, but a newfound appreciation for the deck because this summer I read Manacled by Senlin Yu, and all the fan art for Manacled is black and white and gray artwork. So it was perfect to use this deck while I was reading that book, and that is what I did. So now, although Manacled is very different from actual Harry Potter, I enjoyed the book thoroughly, and now it kind of links it to that time when I was reading that book and enjoying it. So they kind of have a mental link in that sense, and I love that. But the reason it's in this section of the video is the day that I used this deck was my cousin's wedding. And the card that came up, I haven't been paying attention. The card that came up was this one, the Lovers, for a day of a wedding. I know that the Lovers is often about choice, making a commitment, that kind of thing, but I thought it was really funny that the Lovers came up. Now, this is a sad Lovers card. It's Tonks and Remus reaching for each other, I think, during the battle at Hogwarts. Very sad. They both don't make it. So that's what I mean when I say sad and intense. But it was just funny. It was quite literal to receive the Lovers on a day of a wedding. Three more decks to talk about. Tarot of Strange Branches. This is deck 48. I purchased this deck during this little experiment, and it was not supposed to arrive. Oh, we have extra cards. It was not supposed to arrive until after I had finished, and it arrived in the middle. So I had to incorporate it in, and it was the only time I hadn't used this deck. Any other time, it obviously arrived during my little 47 decks in 47 days, now 48 decks in 50 days experiment. So I put it in at the very end. It was the very last deck. Yep, it was the very last deck I used. This, I was influenced by Thea at Garden Goddess Tarot. I just love I wouldn't consider them fairies. I wouldn't consider them sprites, like maybe kind of like nymphs. I don't know. But I love them. I love how they look. This is another one that it's not a rose petal finish, but like kind of. Very thick deck. And I love the little beings. I just love them. I think they're adorable. This deck was amazing. I took a quite literal interpretation. This particular day, I witnessed a car accident. It was very scary. I was on a sidewalk, and the car mounted the sidewalk and missed me and crashed into another vehicle. It was pretty scary. The cards that I got were the Sun plus the Emperor plus the Eight of Wands. I had gone outside. The whole reason I went outside was to go in the sun to warm up. There's our sun. I would not have gone outside if it wasn't sunny. I was literally standing in the sun when this car accident happened. And that was the purpose for being out there, was standing in the sun. The Emperor speaks to power. This woman gave her car too much power. She panicked and punched the gas. There we have our power. And the Eight of Wands, she flew. Because she punched the gas, she flew into another car. Thank God she had her wheel cranked. She still had her wheel turned, and that's why she didn't hit me. But I just thought, you know, the Eight of Wands being speed and movement. We have our Emperor for power, and then our Sun. I was out in the sun. Oh, there we go. I was out in the sun. I just thought, I was like, this is insane. This is absolutely insane. So a more literal interpretation, but it worked. It did really well. So this was pretty cool. Pretty cool addition to my collection this year. Another new deck for 2025. Second last one may come as a shock. It sure did to me. Cladback RWS. Taking it back to the beginning. I don't have anything against this deck. It's just the artwork is not something I would be like, yes, I need to have that. But it's the traditional tarot deck that most people think of when they think of a tarot deck. It's the traditional artwork that comes to mind. And I mean, for learning, it's great. That's why I bought it. I said my first tarot deck was the Wild Unknown, and I was like, what language is this? So I went to a metaphysical shop, and she suggested I get this deck. And while I was there, she was like, by the way, we have a tarot course starting this weekend. And I was like, the first time I'd ever been in the shop. So I joined the tarot course, and this deck was a requirement for that tarot course, as well as the accompanying, well, it doesn't accompany it, the book that you can buy about this deck. And that's where I got started. And this was the deck that was also a requirement for the level 2, which was reversals. And if I do the astrology level 3, it will also be the deck that they ask you to bring. You don't have to, but I think it's wise. And this particular day, it was a yard work day. And I do feel like it was another very literal translation. On this particular day, the yard work day, we were lifting very heavy concrete slabs. And this was the card I got. I got the 10 of Wands along with, so it was the Ace of Wands, the 10 of Wands plus the World. So the Ace of Wands, very spark of energy. It was not our plan to lift these heavy concrete slabs. It wasn't part of what we were planning on doing that day, but we were out there and we were like, let's do it. Obviously, the 10 of Wands being the heavy lifting, and the World was a sense of accomplishment. This was something that my mom had wanted crossed off her list for a while, and we finally got it done, and the two of us were able to lift those heavy concrete slabs together and place them where she wanted them to be placed. So another really funny, quite literal translation. So that's how this deck landed in this section of the video. And the very last deck that I want to talk about was day 41. And this was the biggest shock of all. It was my Tarot of Vampires. This deck has been a struggle since the day I bought it. I edged mine. I couldn't decide if I wanted to do red or black, so I did both. And I actually really like how it looks. I like how it turned out. I mostly bought the deck for the book because I've been hearing for so long how fantastic Phantasmagoria is. I've yet to fully read it. I started to, and I've even felt a little overwhelmed by the book, so I haven't finished it. This deck is so like campy, early 2000s, Lost Boys style artwork, and I love that. I love it for that. Some of it's a little much, little creepy, a little much, but not so much that I can't handle it. The reading that this deck gave me. Actually, let's talk about why it trips me up. There's a lot of things that trip me up about this deck. Do they call them princes in this deck? I think they do. So kind of like a weird like Thoth placement with knights and princes. I still have trouble even in a Thoth deck wrapping my head around that. All the 5s are just portraits, I think. 6s. All the 6s are just portraits. And that's kind of weird to me. Like, what am I supposed to get from that? For the 6 of Swords? So that kind of trips me up. It's just not a go-to, and it's not one that's worked easily for me in the past when I've tried to do readings with it. Princesses. No, the princesses I think are good because the daughters, they're all sitting, I think, and I think that pages are supposed to be grounded. I don't know. Nope, that's knights. Still having trouble. Anyway, the reading itself. I was a little bit stressed about working with this deck and using it because I know I was like, I don't want it to be a struggle. I really don't. And it was a morning reading, an AM card pull. and I asked the deck to be kind to me. It was my first day at my new job, and the cards that I got were the Star plus the Six of Swords plus the Nine of Cups. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And I love that this deck showed up for me on this day and that it gave me that reading again with our Six of Swords in a very Six of Swords day. But I think it was really good, and it really impressed me. I was really pleased. So I wouldn't go as far as saying that I have considered putting it in purgatory. Also, I don't love the aces. I have not gone that far, but it's definitely, I'm well aware that I struggle with this deck. And I don't like that. Like, why am I holding on to something that is not working for me? That is a struggle. And I just kept like holding out hope that one day this deck will work for me. One day it'll click, or one day I'll just decide to start working with it, and I'll get to a point where I'm like, oh, that's what the hype is all about. And I wouldn't say that, what day was this? I wouldn't say that day 41 was necessarily that day, but it definitely gave me hope. It gave me the Star. So I wanted to point out some of the decks that were pretty profound, and this one took the cake hands down as far as the deck that shocked me the most. And it just kind of, I mean, I'm sure the next time I tried to do a reading with that deck, it could probably also go wrong. It wouldn't shock me. So I'm not saying that I think from now on, I think all the readings with that deck are going to be perfect, because I don't. But I love that this one was, and I love that it was on a day where I was like, please be kind to me. And it showed up. And I do think that a lot of my decks showed up for me. I was very impressed with my decks, especially going through what I was going through with my career. I think a lot of them really grounded me and verified a lot of the thoughts and feelings I was having during that process. So I think a lot of my decks really showed up for me. So let's get back to my face.
And that's my 47 decks in 47 days wrap up. No decks were added to Purgatory, which was kind of surprising. I did think I would be able to at least add one, maybe two to Purgatory, and that did not happen. And then there were some major surprises. The Tarot of Vampires being probably the biggest one. So the Tarot of Vampires, it wasn't one that I ever thought about putting in Purgatory. I do still feel like, even before doing this, I felt like the Tarot of Vampires has a time for me, and it's just not right now. But this reading really kind of just like, it just solidified that there is still a chance for us to connect, and I am excited to work with the Tarot of Vampires going forward, but I still don't think that time is now. I'm cool pulling it out every once in a while just to do like a little check-in with myself and the deck to see maybe that time is now, but for the most part, it's not one that gets used very often in my space, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay to wait it out for a time that feels better for me to work with that deck. And I feel like I was really pleased with the readings that gave me quite literal interpretations of my day. So those were pretty interesting and like kind of laugh out loud moments, especially the car accident day. That was like, I'm sure there's probably a deeper reading that you could elaborate on in that, but for me it was just like boom boom boom, this is literally talking about the car accident that I dodged today. So there was lots of interesting things that were discovered, and I'm really glad that I did it. Part of me kind of wants to do it with my oracle decks now. I only have, how many oracle decks do I have? 34, and some of them I don't use as oracles, so they would be removed from that as well. So like the Heavenly Bodies Astrology Oracle, I don't use that as an oracle, it's more of a learning tool, so decks like that would be removed, so it would technically be less than 34. I could still ooh, maybe squeeze it in by the end of the year. I don't know, but I think that might be a 2026 project. And part of me also wants to use some of the spreads in the guidebook. So maybe that'll be a different video where I go through guidebooks and find spreads that I really want to do and then just bang out those in, I don't know, 2 weeks or something, depending on how many spreads I find. But this was just a fun little opportunity to go through all of my decks, and I think this is the first time I've ever gone through all of my tarot decks and actually flipped through them with you guys. So it was an opportunity to do one of these videos as well. So I hope you enjoyed my little 47 decks in 47 days and me using all of my tarot decks before 2026. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you when I see you.